Today we're going to discuss free speech and why it should be regulated. Free speech doesn't mean careless talk. This means that before you put your opinions out in the world, you should consider who it might affect, how it might affect them, and how the potential repercussions of what you say could affect yourself. So my idea is that free speech in public should be regulated. This would apply to public speeches and public protests. And these regulations would be time restrictions as to how long a person can publicly speak for, and vocabulary restrictions, which would prohibit the use of words that highly and widely upset groups of people. And this could be enforced through the threat of a punishment similar to those associated with hate crimes. So first we need to understand the differences between free speech and hate speech. Free speech is your right to say whatever you want to, despite how popular or unpopular your opinions may be, and hate speech is any communication that attacks a person or group of people based on who or what they are. So your First Amendment is your right to say whatever you want. It is free speech. However, according to one article, it states that your First Amendment rights do not actually extend to what is considered hate speech. So at this time, while there are no actual legal repercussions of spreading hate speech, it is not your legal right to do so. In 2018, America saw the highest rate of hate crime that it has seen since 2002. And it is suspected that this rate could be double or higher than what was actually reported, because it is suspected that over half of all hate crimes are not ever reported. However, of what was reported in 2018, 39% of it was non-physical, which means that it was all verbal and only hurt the person mentally and made them feel unsafe. So everybody knows just about that President Donald Trump has a Twitter account. It has millions of followers, and even people who don't have Twitter have at least seen news reports on TV or in the newspaper of what Donald Trump has said on Twitter. So aside from how widespread and known that it is, let me give you an idea of how much hate he posts on Twitter alone. In 2016, he posted almost 600 insults or hate-related comments towards people, places, or things. So that means that millions of people around the country are aware of his opinions or are seeing and receiving the hate that he is posting. If there were vocabulary restrictions on free speech, he wouldn't be able to as easily spread the hate. It wouldn't be able to spread as fast or as heavily as it is, and a good bit of what he has posted wouldn't have been posted. Aside from that, if there were time limits on how long a person can publicly speak for, his average speech length would decrease substantially. His average speech length is 1 hour and 15 minutes, which gives him ample time to make any of the critical points that he sets out to make, as well as residually insult groups of people, as it has been seen that he has done on TV many times. So, with time restrictions, he wouldn't be able to do that. The national president of the League of United Latin American Citizens has stated that she believes there is a direct correlation between the amount of hate that Donald Trump spreads through his speeches and online presence and the amount of hate crimes that we have seen in recent years. Another example of how restrictions on free speech could affect society is seen in the end scene of the 2019 movie Joker. So in this scene, he's talking about how much he hates how the city's being ran and how the working class is treated. Now, throughout his speech, the crowd, which is mostly the working class, starts to get more and more excited. They get excited, they get hard to control, they get unruly, and by the end of his speech, they are wreaking havoc on the city. Complete chaos breaks out, and they are killing people and looting and lighting stuff on fire. And it can be seen, and it is known, that all of what took place afterwards happened because of his speech. Now, if there were restrictions on what he could say, then he couldn't have used words strong enough to upset the people as he did. They wouldn't have been as ready to completely break out as they did. And on top of that, if there were time restrictions to what he could say, he wouldn't have had enough time to amp them up enough for them to break out as they did. So it can be seen that when there are actual consequences to actions, people are less likely to do those things. Just like if you are afraid of getting a speeding ticket, you're not going to speed. So if there was any kind of consequence for hate speech, people wouldn't spread it as often or as heavily. So in conclusion, I believe that there should be a time limit for how long people can speak publicly so that they can only have enough time to make their critical points for their cause, and there should also be a vocabulary restriction to prevent widespread upset.